Ever feel like your parents don't really see you, only what they want you to be? Well, you're not alone. Narcissistic parental projection is more common than you might think, and it could be shaping your entire life. In this video, we'll uncover what narcissistic parental projection is, how it affects you, and most importantly, how you can reclaim your true self. Now, think about a parent who wanted to be a star athlete, for example, but instead pushes their child to train obsessively, ignoring their love for art. That's projection. And by the end of this video, you'll learn how to recognize projection and take steps to break free, to get out of it. So, what is narcissistic parental projection? This type of projection occurs when a parent imposes their unfulfilled dreams, insecurities, or identity onto their child, treating them like an extension of themselves rather than an individual. For example, could be a parent who enforces strict career choices to boost their own image. A mother who pressures their child to be perfect because she fears judgment from others. So you see how they're putting their own ideas, issues with themselves onto their child. And narcissists, because of their impaired insight into their behavior, into their own psychology, into their own mental health issues, concerns, that they're really more likely to fall into this type of projection and utilize it when they're a parent. And how does this tend to manifest? How does this show up? Well, a lot of times it can be over controlling behavior. And this can be is like you have to take this path. So the parent tells the kid, you have to take this path because I know what's best. There's no deviation from this course whatsoever. There can also be guilt tripping, and that could be harsh and overt, or it could even be subtle. For example, after all I've done for you, how can you not follow through? How can you not do this? How can you not do that? How were you not able to do this, that, or the other thing? And it could also be living through achievements. So my child's success reflects on my worth. Now, they would never say that because of their impaired insight, which is part of narcissistic personality disorder, but you see this aspect play out because they can become so intensely invested in their child's success. And when the child fails, which we all do, we all stumble, we all fall, we all struggle with various issues and things like that. So what happens is when that happens, you see the parent kind of back off like, whoa, that's not me, that's that kid. See, that kid's broken. If they did what I said, and even if it is what they said, if they did exactly what I said, they wouldn't have had this problem. They wouldn't have failed. So they turn it on you. It's a little gaslighting for you. That's right. So the emotional toll on the child tends to be is that you can feel invisible. You're burdened by these expectations, whether implicit or explicit, and you feel guilty for wanting to live differently. And this really impairs your self-esteem. It impairs your ability to be assertive, to go after what you want, and embrace what makes you feel fulfilled. So why do narcissists do this? Well, projection often stems from that deep insecurity, like I mentioned, and narcissistic parents see their children as a chance or an opportunity to fix their own sense of brokenness, fears, shame, doubt, inadequacy, and their own shortcomings, or to validate their worth. That's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. You may have absolutely know what that's like. Leave a comment if you do, so other people can relate to it as well and hear that as well. Absolutely. So a father who regrets not producing a dream career may pressure that kid into a similar path to fulfill this sort of lost ambition. And they push and push and push, and they believe, and falsely, that I'm going to push you, and then if you make a mistake, which everybody stumbles, right? That then I'm going to punish you. I'm going to make you feel bad, because they hold the ideology, and it is a fallacy, that I can make you feel bad enough to do good things. That's absolutely positively not true. We have to instill individuals with a positive aspect of self, with a sense of agency, ability to affect change in their life, so that they can go out and impact the world in a positive way with self-esteem and confidence. Berating them only makes them question themselves. And I know there's a ton of movies that show that this person who's been beat down, that suddenly they rise to the challenge. Well, it's a movie. Now, you may hear about athletes who struggled, but athletes, most and those that are most successful, if you hear about their interviews or you read about their life, they had that figure that encouraged them to go forward, to go beyond, to practice, to continue to follow their dream and hope and desire. And that's what we see. But we see with that narcissistic parental projection, there's so much pain associated with it and punishment that gets internalized. And the way that it affects the child is it's their identity and emotional development. And projection can leave them questioning their identity. You may feel that as well. You may experience that, wondering if their choices are really theirs. They're confused about, well, is this my decision or am I doing this for you? But I know that I have to do this, but I don't want to do this, but I should do this. It's very, very confusing. And again, it manifests this sense of low self-esteem. You never feel good enough. It's difficulty setting boundaries. In the world, we got to set boundaries, because if not, people will take and take and take and take and take and take and take. That's just how the world works. Doesn't mean the world's a horrible place. It's not. That's just how the world tends to work. Now, there are kind, giving people. I'm not saying there isn't, but there's that aspect of takers, takers, takers. There's givers too, but these individuals that we're talking about often gravitate towards the takers because that's what the narcissistic parent does. And here we see that saying no, the individual, when they say no, it feels impossible because they're overwhelmed with this sense of guilt. And there's this intense fear of failure, that any mistakes feel like personal betrayals to your parent. And often I see this with my clients, that they are internalized patterns of beliefs and behaviors that individual must engage in order to be good enough or have enough value to then do or receive good things. And it's very, very confusing. And if you're noticing this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to work to claim your sense of identity. Now, there's 3 things I'm going to tell you to do. First, you got to recognize that projection. You got to ask, is this really my dream or theirs? We got to bring some reality. We got to bring some insight into this, and that is critical. Then, we want to set boundaries. Practice saying no firmly, but respectfully. You don't have to scream and yell and have a fit and all that other stuff. Don't do that, because when you do that, you give a lot of that respect away. That's not what we want. You want to practice saying no firmly, confidently, and respectfully. Then you got to seek support. Now, therapy, absolutely. Mental health provider can absolutely help you do that. They can unpack these dynamics. A healthy friend sometimes can be helpful as well. And in unpacking these dynamics, you can start to build this sense of self-confidence, and you start to feel better about yourself, going out into the world and challenging it and going after what you really want. And that's really important. And you got to have this sense of self-discovery. I think that we have a lot of people now who are confused about their purpose in their life. And sometimes we can see that it came out of narcissistic parental projection. And it doesn't mean it always does, but I think that there is this sense of a strong desire for external validation. And instead, what we need to do is look inside of ourselves, what gives us a sense of value and pleasure and drive. And that's what's important, that intrinsic aspect. And I can't encourage that enough. I want you to spend time exploring your interests and values. What makes you you? What drives you? What are you excited about? Don't worry about what the rest of the world, if they like it, if they don't worry about that. You do you. That's what I'm saying. I want you to think about some stuff. So are you living your own life or someone else's dream? And you got to reflect on your journey and comment in here a little bit about what that experience was like for you so other people can read it. I have found that this channel has been really helpful for a lot of people because I try to make it such a positive environment, and I think people are finding that, and they're finding it really helpful. And that's what's so important to me, is to give you guys the tools that you need and recognize you're not alone in dealing with this. Man, I know it can feel that way. I know it can feel really lonely. I understand that. But There's a lot of people going through exactly what you're going through. And finding your own dream and finding your own self-discovery is so important, because then it adds a sense of value and appreciation to the life you're living. And you're only going to get one, so we might as well maximize it and make it great. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who may need to see it. That would be awesome. Work to break the cycle. Work to do it differently. And if you have kids, are you engaging in narcissistic parental projection? Because you may not even realize you're doing it. If so, break that habit, break that cycle, and do it differently. I hope you found this helpful, and check out some of my other narcissistic or other personality disorder videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.